Hello everyone and welcome to a new episode of Business Room podcast. Today we're recording in Bologna, Italy, and next to me is David Lee, which came all the way from Hong Kong to Italy to present his idea and the business that he's creating and working on. David, can you tell us more about yourself and what you bring to the table?
Sure. Thank you, Catalina, and thank you for having me on your podcast. It's a pleasure, and it's been great talking to you and having a great experience here at Bologna. So first of all, my name is David Lee. I am the co-founder of WealthRyse. There's three other co-founders. One is his name's Bernard, and the other one is named Anthony, and then the last one is Jasmine. So we have a very strong team of people, and what we do essentially is, for instance, Catalina, how many Italians do you know that have like a tailor-made suit?
Oh, good question. To be honest, I think I know a few.
Yes, so
A few.
think of a tailor-made suit, and who wouldn't want that type of skill and craftsmanship when they are being told and modeled a portfolio or financial advice just for them. And that's essentially what we do, and that's the problem we're trying to solve.
Okay.
Yes.
And I know that you are integrating AI somewhere here in this story.
Yes.
Can you develop more on how is AI impacting your business?
So it's an AI native investment intelligence technology. This was developed by my co-founder, Bernard, who actually worked at the largest asset manager in the world and obviously helped them be very successful. And he took it upon himself to improve on something that was already so successful. We're very lucky to work with him and the other founders that contribute more on the business side, because obviously, Italy is all about food. And if you have a great restaurant, you also have to have people to market the restaurant to make sure that you have customers so that people will understand and obviously the business value. And so I think that's the way that we've harmonized the roles. And in terms of using AI, what we're doing is, again, I think when you're trying to provide advice to someone, and we're a technology company, we're not a regulated entity. So our technology is used by large asset managers, private banks, family offices, these types of institutions. What you're trying to do is you're trying to make the best type of prediction for someone, saying you should buy this or you should consider this type of investment because we think it's going to go up, or maybe it's better for you because you're trying to do something particular with your goal or your future. But not many people are right because they only can guess so many times. So what AI does, which is very important, is that it is able to statistically go through every single scenario in the future. Think about it this way. Our AI is modeled after something called AlphaGo. I don't know if people understand what AlphaGo is, but it's the first computer AI that was developed by Google, DeepMind, and it beat the world champion, which was a human, in the game of Go. And Go essentially is when you have a board and there's a black piece and a white piece, and then they make sure that they can capture as much area as possible. Now, up to this point, no computer AI had been able to beat a human being. And the reason why is AI, despite the fact people think that it's going to take over the world, it doesn't have insight like you or I. There's no instinct for us to understand what the next move could or couldn't be. And that's why they always lose. So what Google did, which is quite ingenious, is that they said, we don't need insight. And the only scenario where you wouldn't need insight is if you knew the ending to all the games. And that's essentially how Google developed DeepMind and AlphaGo. And AlphaGo essentially took millions of, end games and then worked backwards to make the next best move to get to that desired end game. Our AI, what it does is it takes a portfolio that is optimized and it goes back to the next best rebalancing and rebalances that so that it will get to a certain goal or certain return that people will want without having to guess. Now, of course, no one's always right. So I think for us, I think, let's say decision accuracy, it's about 60%. But when you think about the fact that versus hedge funds, their average win rate is about 51%. And these are hedge funds that make lots of money. I think that's something that is a desirable trait when you're trying to provide advice. Because again, you want to make sure that you provide the best service. And the best service essentially is trying to be as correct as possible, as many times as possible, even though you can't be all the time. Does that make sense?
Yes, it really makes sense. And because I know you are based in Hong Kong and in Asia in general, what about the European market? How do you find your product? It's going to fit into the European country.
That's a great question, Catalina. And so let's talk about the market itself. So everybody's coming here and they say, oh, my total addressable market is 50 billion, 60 billion. That's a large number.
Yeah.
Just to let you know, based off of the most recent Boston Consulting Group, PwC, Deloitte, whichever consulting company you want to talk about, the total addressable market of wealth that anyone has globally in the world is 128 trillion US dollars. That's trillion with a T. It's not billion. Now, in Asia, which is the largest growing wealth center right now, and just to let you know, Hong Kong is actually the largest wealth center, actually dethroning Switzerland this year. Just to let you know, I mean, Switzerland is no longer number one. And that's not my, assessment. It's actually Bloomberg's assessment.
Okay.
They have 31 trillion. Europe has 24 trillion. Italy has about 1.5 trillion in private wealth. And that private wealth has to be advised by advisors. Now, that's the demand. So what's the supply? So advisors, I don't know if you know this, but about 40% of advisors are planning to retire by 2038. The average number of customers that an advisor has is 100. So think about this. If you're a doctor and you have no medical equipment and you're going to see 100 patients over the course of a month, that's actually probably not doable. And in that case, the doctor would make a lot of mistakes or they couldn't care for all the customers anyway. So when you see that supply and demand, and by the way, there's about 80 trillion euro of inheritance that's going to be passed on to the next generation. And that generation already, and these are not my numbers, these are numbers from all the consulting companies, at least a third of them have said that they are not happy with the performance that the advisor has advised them on. So when you look at that, what's going to try to cover this gap? There's not going to be more financial advisors. I just told you 40% are going to retire in about 15 years. Wealth is growing. Just to let you know, 128 trillion seems like a lot of money, right? But let me give you an example. In Italy, the total wealth, not just investable wealth, is 6.9 trillion euro. It's supposed to grow by 33% by 2029. And that means that's another extra 2 trillion euro that's going to need wealth management advice. And Italy is going to be probably close to 10 trillion euro in terms of just private wealth because people are saving, they're making money. And what do you think all that money is going to? And that's why I think it's very important for us to come to Europe. Again, I think wealth is a very common language with everyone. It's all about relationship. It's all about empathy. It's all about understanding someone. So you can't take the human element out of what I think is essentially a human capital intensive industry. But what you can do is you can make advisors more efficient. You can help them provide better advice faster. For instance, let's take the doctor analogy. If a doctor has a blood testing machine and the doctor is very smart, but that blood testing machine enables a doctor to see 1,000 patients a month as opposed to 100, that I think would be good for society. But the machine isn't making the decision. The machine is processing the data so that the doctor can then make an assessment on it. And that's what I think, our positioning and obviously the market in Europe, along with everywhere else globally, will allow us to do.
Okay, and how do you feel your business is gonna grow in the next, let's say, 10 to 5 to 10 years?
Well, I think a lot of our investors ask this question. One of our investors actually being HSBC, which is the largest probably bank group in the world, third largest asset manager with about $1 trillion worth of AUM. I think from our perspective, we expect to be at probably close to a little less than under probably 10 trillion in assets under deployment or assets under administration, because we're not the ones that are managing. We're helping regular entities be able to do that. And that's just with the current team we have. Right now, we only have 15 people.
Okay.
Yes. So that's why we are very automated. I mean, but if we have, let's say, 10 times more people, I'm sure that number would go up quite substantially.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, and to wrap everything up, I want to ask you, how do you feel about being a finalist here in Bologna? Like, what do you think the other people around this event must know about you?
You know, if I could take a minute and just let you know, I mean, I think people think that you're top 5 finalists, you beat thousands of other contestants or, startups, whether they deserved it or didn't deserve it. And people seem to think it's glory, it's recognition, it's appreciation. And I think it's really quite intriguing and appreciative, but I think people have to look on the other side of how hard it was for everyone in that group to work, to do thankless tasks, and to really endure and be resilient. And I'm reminded of this story. This is one of the stories. I don't know if you know this. It's from China. It's a very famous Chinese story. So there was this emperor in China, and he was going to appoint a successor. So he gave a seed to each of his children that could be a successor. And one of those children, and their job was to plant the seed, grow an amazing plant, and based off that plant, the emperor would designate who would be the king next. So this one child took the seed and planted the seed, and watered it, obviously, took care of it. And after several weeks, nothing happened.
Okay.
After several months, nothing happened. And then in the meantime, he was hearing from his other, siblings or competitors, how great their trees were, how beautiful their plants were. And so he felt so ashamed and he felt so discouraged. So when it became a year and nothing had grown, he just had an empty pot. He was like, I shouldn't go. I'll just embarrass myself. But he still went. He still went. And then when he arrived, he immediately saw all the children have these beautiful trees and flowers. They were so beautiful. And he was like, oh man, I'm just completely dead. This is a bad idea. And the emperor looked at all of the different plants and he sort of chuckled to himself and he said, you know what? All the seeds I gave you were boiled, meaning the seeds couldn't produce any type of plant. So all the plants and all the flowers that the other children had planted were from different seeds. Now, the moral of the story is not, this guy was completely worried. Because this is sort of to point out that that child was the only one that came back with the truth. And I think that fact of being true to yourself and, knowing that maybe someone has a, bigger plant than you, people are much more successful than you when you just have an empty pot, or maybe there's something there that, that everybody's, just much more recognized than you are. You could easily pretend to be something that you're not, which was what the other children did. But staying true to yourself and that courage and bravery, I think, is something that people need to understand. I think that speaks a lot of volumes in terms of all the founders that came and obviously they're in the finals, and to each of them and to the people that are watching. And hopefully there'll be, much better finalists coming out in the next few years from Romania or from wherever else. that you have to really believe in yourself and don't be afraid to be true to yourself. Don't try to pretend, and try to understand that just because you hold an empty pot isn't shame. It's actually a symbol of your resilience and how you are going to make it while other people are pretending to make it. That's the way I look at it. But that's okay.
That's such a wonderful story, and I thank you for that. A bit of Chinese wisdom. And I want to, end this conversation with having this story in mind for our public to, reflect on what you said before. And we are going to go back to the event. If you want to find more about what David is doing and his team back in Hong Kong, you can find more about them in the description down below. And thank you for watching. We're going to see you at the next episode. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Catalina.